dealing with is whether or not you're going to show up for court. They're not saying which court, right? That you're just going to deal with this matter, right? And that you're not going to be an injury to the people in their right? To their public, to their citizens, right? Because that's the only thing that they're protecting is their citizens and their property. So as long as as long as you can prove that you're going to deal with this matter, that you're not lawless, right? And that you abide by all your agreements, right? And that you're not you're not going to be an injury to public, they have to release you. Right? A writ of habeas corpus is not going to be recognized in the provincial and federal courts, right? Because they're a common law remedy for a donor. So only if you fail that initial bail hearing, do you have somebody that's as soon right that because they're hopefully you'll have somebody at that court. So if you do get held in custody, then that person immediately goes into the Queen's courts and files that writ of habeas corpus for you in your capacity as the donor, right? Then you can wait. I forget how many days. There's so many days. I think it's up to a week or 10 days for a hearing in the Queen's courts for writ of habeas corpus. Right? Because these are common law rules now. They're not the rules of equity. They're completely different. If you're reading the rules of equity, they do not apply here because you're not in equity, right? These are your laws for you that are restricting. Well, they're their laws that are your remedy that are restricting them. So now we're getting into where you have to go and make a claim in the Queen's Bench. Now, when you are making your claim in the Queen's Bench, first of all, a claim is only a summary of the facts. There's no evidence in it. Everything that you write in this claim, your opposing party has to either agree or deny. Right? If anything in that one, and that's for every numbered paragraph or sentence. So you want to keep these as small as possible and do more of them. Because if you do one big paragraph and one thing if they can deny anything in that one paragraph, they can deny the whole thing. Right? So you want to make sure that your summary is written in a way that you're dealing with the determining factors in the area of law that your claim is based on, right? So for myself, that's reversion, so it's lands. So my claim is based on lands, right? That I'm divorced, right? So on the very first part of your claim is where you deal with the jurisdictions and capacities of all the people within that claim. And you're the first person that you deal with, right? Yourself. So with everybody else, they actually have an address and so on and so forth because they're not disputing the lands, right? They're not disputing their domicile and they're not disputing being seized of their lands. So automatically, everybody that usually fills out a claim gives subject matter jurisdiction. Well, this is where we're flipping everything on its head because you are now deforced because for one, you can't be making these claims until you're deforced, right? You can't be holding anything that's an incorporeal hereditament, right? As the corporate person, right? And you have to remove the corporate person. So first thing is you have to sell anything that can tie you down to a title by purchase. Anything that has to be registered and things like that. Those things you can't be in possession of. You have to sell them to somebody else, right? Because that title by purchase is them purchasing that thing from you and them taking on the trust of that thing. So once you've removed all those things, only then can you submit your deed of release to your birth domicile, to terminate that corporate person, where they have to give you a confirmation, a deed of release in return, confirming that release, right? So you have to be there before you can do any of this stuff. Because
can I interject for a minute?
Sure. Yeah.
How many different levels are we talking about in relationship to releasing yourself from the court person before you actually go in there? I mean, we're talking every aspect, every account. If your name's on CRA, if your name, on a social insurance number, passport.
Everything that is your benefit for the corporate person to the government, that automatically gets dealt with that release that you send the government, right? Because you're releasing all of the rights, duties, and actions to everything real and personal, right? So that's you're saying I don't have any of those things, so now I'm releasing the right to claim any of those things in that capacity, and I'm releasing you, the corporate person, to vest my estate, because I no longer want to be incorporated with you. I don't want to be a part of this group, and you can't force me to be. Right? So once you're no longer a part of, and that's all it takes, right? So as long as you don't have, right, if you have a car that you really like and you want to keep it, give it to a friend. So then once you're out, all you do is you give them a notice, right? That you're claiming that as your right, and he'll give it to you. Done. Right? There you go. And he can even make a court case to make the government give it to you, because he's releasing all his rights and recognizes that he is in fee simple and that he's guardian to all these things. And when anybody in the capacity of the donor comes to someone in fee simple and says, "Hey, I want my thing back," they have to give it. Because if they don't, they're in breach of their contract. Because that's what they chose to do by being fee simple. They chose to be guardians to everybody that's in the capacity of a donor or in their natural capacity, not incorporated with the English law, is their superiors. Right? So you as a donor are in law are more superior in capacity than the monarchy herself. Right. So that's kind of where. So it's actually only twofold, right? All you're doing is giving up the corporate person and then claiming your lands. But you got to give up that stuff before you can claim your lands, because the corporate person is acceptance. So you can't be accepting and denying something at the same time, right? You can't be denying something with your words and accepting it with your actions, right? And that's kind of what's happening with everybody going to court saying all these things, right? Because they don't understand the capacities and who is actually who in law, right? And how to change that up. So by you being divorced,
would that work with? Would that work also with the land that you claimed? That as soon as you claimed it, you'd pass it over to a guardian, and then once you've released, then you go back and ask for that land, because you have the right to claim that land, right? Initially.
Yes,
before you get that release.
But that's the thing. If you give it up to anybody else, now you're subject to that person. You've now put yourself in that exact same position again, right? Where you're
the same idea with a car, though, isn't it?
No, this is completely different.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I got it now. Yeah.
Right. It's you owning the natural resources to the land to build that car. Right? Because nobody in fee simple they're not allowed to dig the ground or anything else, because they don't own the natural resources. Right? So that's why everything that they build, right? That's why everything that they build is actually a waste to their inheritance. Right? For everything that they do, everything, right? Every car that's going down the street is actually a waste to their inheritance, because they don't own it. It's all the donors, right? It's a fiction. They don't even exist, right? They're two different worlds, right? It's like on the Matrix when Nemo actually finally gets above the